Hello, my angels, and welcome back to another video. Now, today I wanted to make a video for anyone that has ever felt like manifestation works for you, but only sometimes. Like you'll have these moments where everything is just flowing, opportunities are showing up, money's coming in, people are reaching out, things move really fast. And then suddenly everything seems to be slowing down again. You start doubting yourself, you start trying harder, and it kind of feels like you're back at square one. So if that cycle feels familiar, you're not crazy and you're not bad at manifesting. You're probably just operating from what I call the struggle timeline. And once I understood this, it completely changed how I was able to approach manifestation. Now, a lot of us are taught that success requires pressure. You know, the saying that diamonds are made under pressure. It's what I grew up hearing, and I want to be a diamond. So, what typically happens is you're the queen of procrastination, and you might be waiting until the last minute. You're going to grind, you stress yourself out, you're pushing harder and harder until something finally works. And then you're like, see, I can handle procrastination, I can handle this. But the moment that this problem is solving itself, you feel this huge sense of relief. And that relief feels amazing, almost euphoric. But what most people don't realize is that this pattern actually trains your nervous system to believe that success or getting things you want only happens through struggle. So subconsciously, we recreate that pressure again and again. And this shows up everywhere. It shows up in business and money, even in relationships. And I especially see it in the manifestation community at whole because you chase something, you finally get it, and then the stability feels very unfamiliar. So something has to occur to destabilize that again. And this is where manifestation and the nervous system tend to overlap because your nervous system doesn't care about your vision board, it cares about what feels familiar to you. So if stress, urgency, and emotional intensity have been your normal, then this peace that you're craving and this stability that you really want can actually feel super uncomfortable. So your system then pulls you back to what it knows. And this can feel very self sabotaging because you're not yet calibrated. So your body is constantly trying to return to what feels safe and what feels predictable. So this is why people can manifest something that they want and then lose it or sabotage it or recreate chaos again because it is still seeking emotional familiarity. So this is a prime example of things that I went through and have helped clients with. So let's say you want more money, but the only time you feel motivated is when you're broke or you need a bill paid really urgently. Or maybe you are someone who really wants love, but the only time that you may feel emotionally activated is when the relationship starts to feel a little bit rocky. Or maybe you really want success, but you only take action when you're under extreme pressure. So, this is because your nervous system has learned that urgency equals movement. So, when life becomes calm, you unconsciously recreate this urgency again and again, and you get stuck in this cycle. And it's not necessarily because you want this chaos, it's actually just because that is what is familiar to you. So, the real mind shift that you can take away in manifestation isn't by forcing these things to happen, it's by teaching your nervous system that stability is safe, that things can work without struggle, and that success can be normal. This love that you want can be calm, and that money can actually be something very consistent for you. So that shift doesn't happen by forcing all of these positive thoughts. It really happens through small moments where you are responding differently than what you used to. So this is where you're able to really interrupt that old pattern. So maybe you rest instead of pushing, or maybe you don't chase when something triggers you, or maybe you allow something good to stay instead of always expecting it to just disappear. So those tiny interruptions really start teaching your nervous system a completely new reality. And I realized this in my own life when I started noticing how quickly things could shift for me when I was actually regulated and I was calm. Because the times when things moved the fastest for me weren't the times when I was obsessing over this thing or trying to force it somehow. It was when I was regulated, when I felt secure, when I was just living my life and really trusting things were unfolding, because that energy creates a completely different signal and reality actually responds to that. So if you feel like you notice yourself maybe stuck in this pattern of urgency or pressure, maybe you find yourself in these really emotional high highs and then followed by low lows, the question then becomes, how do you actually manifest in a healthier way without falling back into that survival loop? Because a lot of people will hear these concepts like live in the end or persist, and you might be someone who interprets that as, well, now I have to affirm all day. I have to force my thoughts. I can't feel anything negative. I have to constantly monitor my mind. And this can actually put your nervous system right back into that pressure mode and taking you back into that same identity. So you're not manifesting from trust and peace at that point. You're manifesting from control. And control is still a form of fear. So healthy persistence actually looks very different, because healthy persistence is not obsessing about this outcome all day. It's genuinely setting the direction of your mind and then allowing yourself to live your life. So think of setting these intentions or using these techniques as a GPS system. So you're going to enter this destination once and then you drive. You don't keep pulling over every 5 minutes to re-enter the address and making sure that you're on the right track. So here are a few ways that you can actually practice this in your daily life. Now, the first one is intentional auto suggestion. Now, for me, auto suggestion is simply just the idea that you are repeating to yourself constantly throughout the day, but this doesn't have to be robotic affirming or in a way that makes you feel forced or under pressure to hit a certain number to get your manifestations. Because technically, with auto suggestion, you should be already robotically affirming all day, but it's just really the way that you're talking to yourself and speaking to yourself about your desire and about who you are. So you don't have to do it in a way that feels really obsessive or where you're constantly checking something and making sure that you're checking off all these points before you get what you want. Because if this is something that does work for you, that is amazing. But if it doesn't work for you, don't force it. Okay. So with auto suggestion, it can just be something as simple as noticing when your mind goes back to an old story and you're gently redirecting it. So, for example, if your mind says, well, these things that I want, it always takes forever for me, then you can use a mind shift in that moment to, well, things are actually really starting to move in my life. Or if your mind says, I always lose opportunities or things just seem to slip away from me, your mind shift could be, things are finally stabilizing for me. Okay, because I don't want you to force yourself to believe something super impossible. You're just simply guiding your mind in a new direction. And this is something that you continue to practice until it does become a natural thing for you. That way, it doesn't feel like a constant battle when you are manifesting, because you don't want to be fighting yourself during this process while all these things are taking place, because it's really not fun for anyone. Now, the second practice is what I call pattern interrupts. So this is where manifestation becomes very practical, okay? Because your current reality exists because of repeated emotional patterns that you carry. So when you decide to respond differently than what you used to, you are literally interrupting that pattern that created your old results. So maybe you used to spiral when someone didn't text you back, or you would go to stalk the social media or check up on everything. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take a breath and continue your day, or just do something nice for yourself. So maybe you also used to panic about money. Now you can calm your nervous system and then focus on the next aligned action for you. So maybe you used to hustle until you were burnt out, but now you can take a break and just trust that things can unfold without pressure. So even though these small changes might seem insignificant, they are actually the identity shifts that are happening as you go throughout this process. So these are just very micro movements that you can do and implement into your schedule. That way you don't feel overwhelmed as you're manifesting. Now, the third thing is something that I see people struggle with a lot in manifestation communities is they feel like they can't necessarily enjoy their life until this manifestation arrives. Okay. But ironically, the most powerful manifestation state is actually when you're just living your life. Okay. You're going to the gym, you're seeing your friends, you're working on your goals, you're really taking care of your body, you're laughing, you're creating, you're being present, you're listening to music. You're genuinely allowing yourself to engage in activities that bring you joy. Because when your life becomes full and grounded, your nervous system stops signaling lack and you're no longer waiting for your life to start and you're already living it. Okay. So a healthy balance for you to actually do this might just look like you spending a few minutes in the morning, setting your intentions. Maybe you visualize, maybe you affirm, maybe you journal or pray or express gratitude during this time, and then you move into your day. Now, if your mind drifts back to the old story, you gently redirect it and you have tools that you can use, or you have a busy schedule. So you want to make sure during this time that I don't want you to overwhelm yourself, but you want to make sure that you're actually engaging in activities that bring you joy. Even something as simple as playing your favorite song or going for a walk. I know it seems very, very minimal, but when you are actually enjoying your life and doing things that you want to do and doing things that are going to benefit you in so many ways, you're not having time to sit here and spiral and check to see if they have texted you back or liked your Instagram story or if they're still following you on social media. You're genuinely so busy living your life because you understand who you are. And someone who has that inherent value about themselves and knows that no matter what, this is going to work out for me, no matter what it's looking like right now, they have a very healthy balance in the daily activities that they are engaging in and what they are placing their awareness on, because you already know that your awareness is creating every single thing in your reality. So if you're always constantly looking at the lack or all of these to do things, like all these things on your to do list that you have to do, you are constantly going to be in a very pressurized survival, flight, or fight mode. And it's going to make it really hard for you to accept these manifestations or actually call in this peaceful life that you've been asking for. So you don't need to spend your entire day monitoring every single thought and thinking you have to flip it, because I think that is a very big misconception when it comes to the mental diet is you're going to have so many thoughts that are going to slip through, but it's really about the attention you're giving it. You don't have to sit here and necessarily flip, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just thought that about my SP. I can't believe I just doubted myself with this money. It's just showing you where you're still dominantly at, especially if you have an emotional reaction. And if you take time aside, not every single day, but throughout your week, or time block yourself of, okay, this came up for me today. I really want to address it, accept it, acknowledge it, give it love, and let it go. Okay. Because you don't need to just keep spending your entire days freaking out over this stuff and ruminating, because that's also what's going to keep you stuck in the middle, because you're not allowing yourself to trust the direction that you've chosen. You are now really allowing yourself to exist by doing this. And when you allow your mind and body to become a safe space for you, that is always going to be the thing that you realize should be your number one priority, because that balance between intention and presence is where your manifestation can actually become something sustainable, because it will feel very natural to you at that point. So if you feel burnout, I want you to hear me when I say that manifestation was never meant to feel like a full-time job. It's meant to be a shift in how you relate to yourself and your life. It is something that I look at as a life skill and a gift to have this knowledge. So don't allow it to work against you, because when your nervous system truly learns that stability, ease, and consistency are safe, that is when manifestation can stop feeling like a battle to you, and it can start feeling like a natural part of your life and how things unfold for you. So we're about to enter into my favorite part, which is the tapping. But before we go into the tapping, I do actually want to just share something personable about how this showed up in my own life, because for me, the struggle timeline looked like two completely different extremes. So for most of my life, I was the person who believed you had to work constantly to survive. I always had two jobs and sometimes three. And I always had a bunch of side hustles. I was always busy. I was always grinding. I was always trying to stay ahead of bills. And I thought that pressure was normal. But whenever I found manifestation, I actually swung to the complete opposite extreme, because I thought, okay, if reality responds to my state, then I shouldn't have to do anything. So I would stop picking up shifts. I was literally laying in bed all day long, just listening to affirmations constantly and just trying to stay in that state. And at first it felt good, but then reality would hit. A random bill would show up, something would need to be paid, and I would freak out. I would start spiraling again, pacing my room, but blasting these affirmations. And the real reason for all of those things were deep down, I hadn't actually addressed my beliefs or addressed my intentions behind my behaviors. So, what happened was I then swung back to the other extreme. I went right back into overworking myself. So, I was serving 60 to 70-hour weeks. I was trying to push my way out of the situation again. And what was interesting is that even though I was working constantly, things still were not breaking through for me. I would get these weird sections at work. I would have bad tables. I would have really slow shifts. Money just felt very inconsistent. And it felt like I was forcing life, but nothing was actually moving. And I was getting so much pressure because I was trying to force something and I was trying to manipulate the 3D and thinking that if I just go back into these certain habits and behaviors, that's me not being irresponsible. That's me taking action. That's me trying. And it ended up in an even worse emotional outburst for me and a huge burnout on my end. And I wasn't able to actually intentionally put my energy into the things that mattered and into the things that were actually going to lead me to the life that I was calling in. So when I realized this, I understood that neither extreme was the answer. And I understood that for me, that I can't force something because that is one thing that I did love. I loved control and I loved the idea that I know what is best. Like whatever I say goes and this is how you do it and I'm going to show them how it's done. And I was coming at it from a completely wrong angle in my identity. So I understand that you can't escape into manifestation techniques and you can't escape your 3D reality because it's just reflecting you. So, what actually changed things for me was learning how to regulate my nervous system and then begin to address the beliefs underneath everything. So, that's whenever I started to incorporate EFT tapping. And that's when I started noticing the pressure patterns that were still very active in my mind. So instead of reacting from this sense of urgency that I always felt, I started making decisions from a more regulated place. So that's when new ideas were able to start really coming through for me. That's when different opportunities really started showing up in my reality. And instead of one chaotic income source, money started coming in through multiple streams. But the biggest shift for me wasn't the money, it was that things could finally start to feel stable. And that stability was something that my nervous system had never really known before. And it was something that even in the past, whenever I was making very large amounts of money that I had never seen in my life, I completely self sabotaged that opportunity for myself. And I didn't believe that it was something that I could actually hold on to and sustain. And I had a lot of different limiting beliefs that I had to work through personally for that. But now that I'm starting over and doing this, it's been really, really relieving on my nervous system because I'm doing it at my own pace and allowing this money, this time as it's coming in, to be something that I can normalize now and be something that I can actually settle in and actually get exactly what I was looking for. So, the same thing. I always say money and your relationships and love, all of that is interlinked. And I noticed this same pattern was also happening in my relationships. So when I look back at some of the relationships that I was manifesting, I actually realized that I was addicted to the emotional pressure cycle. Um, I was doing this where I could pull people in, whether it was platonic or romantic, and I could get all the attention I wanted. I could get everyone to conform. But when things actually became calm or stable or consistent for me, I would start projecting the past. I would start questioning things. I would start overanalyzing everything. I would sometimes stop setting boundaries because I was afraid to lose that person and I would let it build up. And then the smallest old trigger would just set me off. And then something would happen and I would go right back into chasing, people pleasing mode. And even if it wasn't to them necessarily with the chasing, it was still me using a bunch of manifestation techniques and just trying to force things behind the scenes, or I would want to be chased and I would end things and just expect them to come beg me. But literally anyone gets tired of that cycle, even me after everything's settled, because the silence after all of that chaos is the most brutal part, I feel like. But the crazy part is that I sometimes felt more comfortable in that chaos. So when I was in the no contact, when I was in that getting them back phase, I felt so much more alive than in the actual relationship, because my nervous system was so used to this emotional pressure. And this is something that I do see happen with a lot of people, especially manifesting a specific person, because we think we want that relationship so bad, but our body is still calibrated to the chase. So it keeps you in that cycle of being maybe in no contact or being in hot and cold situations. Sorry, Mila is running around right now and she got the zoomies. I'm recording this a little late, but I want to get the message out. But what was I talking about? The chaos that we have. So sometimes we want to recreate that emotional intensity that feels really familiar to us, because the no contact situations or having hot and cold dynamics, it feels intense. It feels like, oh my gosh, this is my soulmate. But then when they're coming in showing steady, I notice for me personally, and what I've heard through other people, is it's so natural and normal that there's not this big jump and all these butterflies. And I'm like, is this my person? Because I'm like not feeling it. Like they're so healthy. And I wasn't understanding why I kept sabotaging it. And I think even for me as well, like if I didn't have that chaos in my relationships, I would definitely become the chaos in that relationship. I would create all kinds of things or start arguments, and it's not my proudest moments, but it happens. And now that I've gotten to the root of why I would do that, I'm able to actually have very healthy relationship dynamics and actual consistent stabilizing income, which has been something that I have been striving for a very long time. But now that it's feeling safe in my body, it's something that I feel like now makes a lot more sense, because once I understood these patterns and recognized them within myself, that's whenever everything started really being able to be shown in my reality, and everything started actually becoming something of ease for me. So if you are someone who feels like you've been stuck in this pressure cycle, whether it's with money, relationships, manifesting, or even just your life in general, I want to do a quick EFT tapping with you, because sometimes the first step simply is just allowing your nervous system to realize that you don't have to live in survival mode anymore. So if you notice yourself stuck in this pattern of urgency, pressure, and these emotional high highs and low lows, I want to do a quick tapping exercise together, because my intention is for you to feel heard and seen in ways that you might not have been before. So if you are someone who has had a life of struggle or pain, I want you to tap along with me. Okay. So we're going to start at the karate chop point. Deep breath. Really feel in your body what you're feeling right now. So even though a part of me feels like I always have to struggle to get what I want, I deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself. Even though I feel like things only work out for me when I'm under pressure, I honor that part of me that learned how to survive that way. And even though I'm scared that if I relax, everything will fall apart, I'm open to teaching my body a new way. Okay, eyebrow point. I feel like things only work when I push. Like if I don't force it or I'm not all the way in control, then nothing happens. Maybe I have been living in survival mode, always trying to stay ahead of the next problem, always waiting for the next thing to just go wrong. My body is really used to pressure. I thrive under pressure, actually. The urgency, all the emotions, it's so motivating to me. It makes me feel like I have so much value. Here are. My body thinks stress means that I'm doing something right. No wonder it's so hard for me to relax. I mean, what if I slow down and everything falls apart? What if this stability just doesn't last? What if I finally get what I want and I lose it again? What if life has always been hard for me and it's just supposed to be that way? Things just really feel like they don't go my way. And when they do, I know it's only because I applied pressure. So a part of me is scared to trust that things can actually go well for me. Because honestly, I'm so used to the other shoe dropping. I'm used to all this chaos, even if that means sometimes I become the chaos. Am I the drama? I just can't accept the idea of things actually going easily for me. Things just flowing without me always being on my A game. So, this calm and certainty feels very unfamiliar. I'm always waiting for it to drop again. Take a breath. But my nervous system was just trying to protect me. It learned all of these patterns for a reason. It learned how to survive. And I'm so grateful for that. But I know that I don't have to live in survival forever. I'm allowed to create something different now. I'm allowed to experience stability. I'm allowed to trust myself, trust life, trust the unfolding. About maybe things can work without so much pressure. Goodbye. Maybe ease can be real for me. Maybe consistency is possible. Maybe life doesn't have to be a fight. Maybe love can be calm. Maybe money can be steady. Maybe I can trust good things to stay. Maybe my nervous system and my mind can finally relax. So I'm allowing in this moment for my body to learn a new normal. A new normal where I don't have to constantly fight. A life where things can work with steadiness. Where I don't have to keep proving my worth through this constant struggle. Where I don't have to earn love through all this pressure. Where I don't have to keep pushing myself to the point of exhaustion in order to receive. So I'm releasing the identity of the person who always has to struggle. And I'm opening myself to a new way of living. Because I know it is safe for things to work out for me. It is safe for life to support me. It is safe for money to flow steadily and consistently. It is safe for love to be calm and secure and for me to trust it to work out for me. It is safe for opportunities to stay and continue to expand my gifts. It is safe for me to relax knowing that all of my needs are supplied and I'm fully supported, even if I don't know how, even if I can't see it yet. My nervous system can learn stability with ease. My thoughts can become encouraging and motivating, leading me in all the right directions. And stability can become my new normal. I trust myself, I trust where I'm headed, and I trust that I'm held the whole way. Now, take a deep, slow breath. let your shoulders drop, relax, and just notice how your body feels. Okay. So if manifestation has felt inconsistent for you, it might not be your technique. It might just be the emotional pattern your nervous system is used to running. And the beautiful thing is, patterns can change. You don't need to force your life into existence. You just need to teach your body and your mind that the life you want is safe to experience. And I promise you, once that happens, things often move way much faster than you've ever expected. Okay. So I just know this video gave you that aha moment, and you can finally step into a version of yourself who expects a life of ease with no more struggle, because you do not have to earn your place in this life. You are here to experience and move authentically. Okay. So until next time, my loves.